Grand evening, everyone. It is Thursday, August 6th, 2026, and it is 20 hours and 5 minutes in the evening, Central Daylight Time, here in the United States, Texas more specifically. This is initially a live stream recording, which, I actually have to edit the description a little more for this video. And we have some massive breaking news. President Trump, I think something with the Pentagon. It was from NBC reports and the Pentagon. Tactical nuclear weapons have basically they had their limitations reduced. They're less restricted now to use tactical nuclear weapons, maybe even strategic. The Pentagon was talking about that earlier, and that has to do mainly with Russia and China. So nuclear weapons, especially tactical nuclear weapons, are being less restricted so that the U.S. can quickly use tactical nuclear weapons on Russia and China. Let's see here where we're going to begin. As I said before, this is initially a live stream recording that will be posted to my YouTube channel and right here on this X page. So we had another, it's like Russia's Amazon, meaning like the Amazon, the company. This is like Russia's Amazon Wildberries. They have had one of their largest logistics hubs targeted by a Ukrainian drone attack again. And this time it was in Krasny Bor. So I think this is the second Wildberries facility that has been hit by Ukrainian drones. The Ukrainians have been launching many drone attacks into Russia about the last year or so now. Ukraine has really damaged the Russian oil infrastructure. They've targeted many oil and gas facilities over there in Russia. I think they dropped it by about 40%. Russia's oil use, it's down by 40%. I think their usable oil. They have lines to get gas there in Russia that are about 4 hours long or more. So Russia is really in trouble when it comes to oil and gas. That's never been thought of. That's a very, very outside of the box thing to have happened. That Ukraine has done so much damage to Russia, especially their oil and gas infrastructure, that they have very little usable oil left, at least for their general population. They are pretty much rationing oil there in Russia, as there are many oil shortages all throughout the world now, and that's starting here more in the United States. I heard something about diesel running out. Soon the diesel will run out. So first I think the jet fuel goes, then the diesel. Though I did hear some kind of report about diesel running out. So we have fuel shortages globally right now, especially in Russia and other parts of the world. Asia is very affected by the oil shortages. I've heard that there's no deal. There's a lot of mainstream news trying to say, oh, there's going to be a deal and all that. It's very unlikely. It's not very realistic at all at this time for there to be any kind of deal. What is more realistic and likely is the use of tactical nuclear weapons. That is coming up. It has been building up over the last year, and that specifically is the nuclear threat. The nuclear threat is very high. It is at its highest it has been right now at this time. So we need to keep on preparing even for the nuclear war possibility. This was an interesting post I put up. It's very true. The central bankers, they run a lot of different forms of society. So the Houthis have struck again. A ship has sank in the Red Sea off Yemen after it was attacked by the Houthis. I don't know why they didn't say it was the Houthis. 99% sure the Houthis sunk that ship. That was from the Insider paper and a local official. This from BRICS News and Nostra there. President Trump has threatened Iran with a severe strike if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened soon, which Iran has no intention of reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The only way that Iran will open the Strait of Hormuz is if it is on their exact terms. Iran has a lot of the leverage right now. They are cutting off the world's supply of oil, most of it, and it's affecting here in the US as well. So all Iran has to do is wait a little longer and keep targeting oil and gas facilities throughout the Middle East, keep bringing up the price of oil, and they could win more economically. They could win the war in a more economic way and force the US and NATO to surrender through economic means. That is how other countries can beat the US and NATO, through economic means, because all that has to be targeted is the price of oil and certain exports and trade and the currencies of certain countries like the US and parts of Europe. Europe is being really devastated by the Strait of Hormuz closure. They are more affected by it than the US is, apparently. That's not exactly true. The entire world is affected by the Strait of Hormuz closure. I would say almost equally. Parts of Asia, like certain islands in Asia, and in the Pacific are affected the most, though the US and Europe are affected in a very similar way. So Iran is trying to win the war by cutting off most of the world's oil and trade there in that region. Iran is trying to win the war that way, in an economic way, not so much in the military sense. Iran doesn't have many military assets as much anymore. Iran has a very large ground force, and they still have many missiles and things like that, though they don't have a large air force or navy left. So Iran is trying to win the war economically, and they are causing massive economic damage all throughout the world because that's it seems to be one of their main strategies. President Trump has also said recently, as you can see here, President Trump has said that you have to fight your way out. So more evidence that there's not going to be any kind of peace deal or anything like that. We also have an unprecedented spread of malaria in Africa, which is strange, though that is one of the most deadly mosquito-borne illnesses in the entire world. Alexander the Great died from malaria. So have many, many others ever since. I mean, that was well over 1,000 years ago. So everyone in Africa, be very careful when you're around mosquitoes. I expect this to somehow, it could somehow reach the US. I don't know if malaria spreads in an airborne way, though it's possible that could somehow develop, could be released or something, much like the tick thing not too long ago. It's always something with mosquitoes. Very, very strange how that works. And then we've had several UFOs spotted and confirmed on the moon after several months of research by, I think it was the Ukrainian scientist, some kind of scientist that's also from the Daily Mail. So somewhat of or totally a mainstream news source there, they're issuing a warning after spotting more than 20 giant UFOs racing across the moon. Because they said giant, it could be some kind of UFOs. One of my first thoughts was, oh, those are advanced military bases and some kind of very advanced military technology that is on the moon. That's very lesser known, though it is possible that the military has reverse engineered alien technology, and we have things here in the US and certain other countries that can get to the moon and fly around the solar system. Crazy stuff that is, though things that are hidden in military bases like Area 51, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The things that are hidden in those bases, they've reversed engineered much of it, and things that are there are hundreds of years ahead of everything now. So it's pretty advanced now, though everything in there is hundreds of years ahead of what is out in the public. A lot of things there, not everything, but a lot of it. Moving on, we have this here. This was part of what I was talking about for one of the first things, that the U.S. has drafted a new nuclear strategy in case of regional war with China or Russia. Once again, that's from NBC reporting that as well. So BRICS News and NBC, very solid mainstream sources, which on a lot of things you don't want to listen to them at all, but because BRICS News is reporting it and it's news from the Pentagon, I've looked into this quite a bit. It's very true. And this is, as I've said there, one of the largest developments towards nuclear war yet. So please keep on preparing physically, mentally, and spiritually, even for nuclear war now. At times I've also said to prepare for that, though it is very evident now that we also need to prepare for nuclear war. I really recommend learning about nuclear war survival skills, how radiation works and fallout, how that works. Certain gear is very useful when it comes to nuclear war or being around a nuclear detonation or a nuclear disaster in general, like what happened with Chernobyl or some kind of plant that's melting down. That's kind of expected to happen in Iran. If they attack some of their nuclear plants there, which I think they have one or two, a nuclear meltdown could happen in Iran. That could happen in Israel. Israel has a nuclear power plant. There's one of the, I think it's the largest nuclear power plant in the world is in Zaporizhia in Ukraine. So the nuclear threat is very high. And even if people are near a nuclear power plant, which if those melt down, it's arguably worse than a nuclear explosion, which that's pretty likely to happen too. Something could just go wrong with the power grid or some other issue, and those power plants could melt down. They will melt down one day at this rate, and that's going to cause a lot of radiation and fallout in large areas that lasts much longer than just a precise nuclear explosion. Though nuclear explosions are very, very dangerous, they're very large, and it's hard for people to even comprehend the size of a nuclear explosion. A modern nuclear explosion is very large, much larger than the ones from World War II, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when the bombs were dropped on those locations. So please keep on preparing physically, mentally, and spiritually for nuclear war, for this war to further intensify, because it is, and it will further, and we will soon, at this rate, be fighting the Russians, and then the Chinese, and maybe even the North Koreans at some point. It's all intensifying into that direction. The Pentagon hasn't talked about this nuclear thing for no reason. It's because everything is moving more into that direction, where the direct fighting in World War III spreads to more of those countries. It's very intense right now with this war. It's not the Iran war. We are over 5 months into World War III, the total kinetic phase of World War III. A lot of people don't know that and realize it yet, which is mind-blowing stuff. We're over 5 months into the war, but because they call it, oh, the Iran war, people don't realize it's World War III. When several countries are involved, a lot of NATO countries are involved in this war. Russia is clearly getting more involved. China is doing a lot of threatening things and setting up near Taiwan and all that. Doing some kind of drills and training and simply setting up in that region near Japan and Taiwan. So a whole lot going on. The war is definitely intensifying, and it is going into that direction where the US and NATO will be fighting Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea all at the same time. So people really need to prepare for especially when it intensifies more into that, and the very high possibility of nuclear war at this time. I will be back very soon. I'll be back tomorrow night around the same time. I would say 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So a lot of things we had to talk about here tonight. I missed it last night. I usually come on Wednesdays around the same time. This is a special event here Thursday. I could not put this off any further. The news to do with the easing, they're making it a lot easier to use tactical nuclear weapons now, maybe even strategic nuclear weapons. So very, very concerning. That is one of the largest nuclear developments in this war so far. So I will be back very soon, as I said, likely 8 or 9 p.m. Central Daylight Time tomorrow night, Friday. Thanks for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe on this video on YouTube. I will have it posted there, and I will also have it posted right here on X, and even the dedicated Facebook page. I have links to all of that in the description of this video. As always, love, light, and blessings to you all.